Happy New Year. In this video I thought I might have a look back at 2022, considering it's 2023 now. We have just started the new year, so it would be nice to have a look back. I made some notes about what the highlights were in 2022. So let's get onto it. And I decided to mention some of the parts about moving to Canada and the process of it, but I think I will go more in depth in that in another video, explaining how that whole application process worked, what I needed to do to apply, what documents I needed, and so on. So it's all in one place and it's easier to access and see the whole journey of that. So let's start with January. January was quite quiet. I had exams. I had just come back to Glasgow from being in Latvia for a while, seeing my family for Christmas, and I worked more than I did because I had time off university a bit, but also had my exams, hung out with friends a bit more, so it was just quite a peaceful start of the year. February. So in February, my parents, my brother Gunnars came over to Glasgow to see me for my birthday. Michelle and Keen had planned this whole day for me, which was very nice. We went for breakfast in the morning in this lovely cafe. Can't remember the name of it, but if I can find it, I'll add it here because it's quite a great breakfast spot in Glasgow. Then, even though it was raining, we went to our next activity, which was quite a surprise, and we went to the Science Centre in Glasgow. It was actually very fun, plenty of activities to do. We spent a good few hours there and definitely could have spent many more, I would say. After the Science Centre, we returned back to our flat, and Michelle was there. They had decorated it and we had some cake and it was very fun. We played a few board games and just hung out until we had a dinner reservation later that night. For dinner we went to Old Salties, which is a restaurant in the west end of Glasgow that Keen and I had been to once before, and we really enjoyed it, and the food was very good. Also in February and / January, I was more focusing on my mental health. I was journaling a lot. I was meditating daily. I was doing a lot of yoga. I was doing my university work, but at that point it wasn't such a big deal to get everything done. February was quite a slow start, so I could just really take that time and be able to combine university, my part-time work at Wetherspoons, and just really put the emphasis on my mental health, because also we were in the middle of the process of applying for our Canadian visas, so that was a bit stressful as well. Also in February, which I'll go into a bit more in the other video, but I did a trip to London, which was good. It was a day trip. The trip was very short, but I enjoyed it. But when I was there, I was feeling quite tired because I had spent the whole night on a bus getting there, and I knew I had another night in front of me, same thing, in a bus going back to Glasgow. It was very enjoyable, but also quite exhausting. So now we get into March. So at the beginning of March, I took a trip back home to Latvia to get a new passport, so I spent 4 days there. It was quite a nice trip. I didn't really do much during that trip because my main goal was just getting the passport. Then after returning back, right after St. Paddy's Day in March, which is March 17th, I got COVID. For a week in March that I was supposed to be doing my interviews for my dissertation, I was stuck at home feeling quite shit, not wanting to do anything. And it ended up being quite a slow week. My symptoms weren't too bad, but it just meant that I had just spent a week doing not much, and I had 2 or 3 weeks to finish my dissertation, which I hadn't even done the interviews for yet. The week after, however, I got much better and I went to Edinburgh to do my interviews as well there. That was fun. I was really testing my introverted self because I needed to go up to random people and just ask them if they could do interviews with me, because apart from my friend Eva, I didn't really know anyone there, but I needed at least like four more people. Now it leads us to April. At the beginning of April, we booked our flights to Toronto for September. So at this point, we already knew that we had secured our visas, we were good to go. On April 13th, I submitted my dissertation, so that was a huge relief. I felt great submitting it. I felt great that it was done. I was kind of surprised that I got it done, but it was one of those things where it seems like there's so much to do and I keep doing and tweaking stuff and it feels never ending, but then it's suddenly all over and you're done. And also in April, I submitted most of my other essays. Yeah, I did some exams as well. I did one at the beginning of May, but pretty much most of my coursework ended in April. It was quite a weird feeling because it felt like any other year where I just submit things and then suddenly I don't have to study anymore, but I feel like it didn't really hit me that that was it. That was my last year of my bachelor's degree, which felt a bit strange. Near the end of April, Keen's friends from Ireland came over and we had a really nice weekend in Edinburgh. We did a bit more sightseeing. We went to Edinburgh Dungeons, had some nice food, stayed at a nice Airbnb. It felt like a nice, relaxing time after submitting everything, although I believe I still did one test during this trip and started on an essay that was due right after the trip. Even though it was relaxing and nice, it was still a bit stressful. And right after this trip, my cousin Anita and my aunt came over and visited me in Glasgow for like 2.5 days, I believe. And again, it was great seeing them, but on one of the days we went to Kelvingrove Museum and kind of walked around, and while they were walking around, I sat in the cafe really scrambling to finish an essay, which was my absolute last essay to finish. I knew it didn't really matter that much what I got on it, because the way my university system worked, they only take a certain amount of modules, the ones that you do best in, to calculate your mark. So I didn't need to get a great mark on that. I think I still ended up doing fine on that essay and in the course in total, so it was all good. Another thing that happened at the very end of April, I quit my job in Spoons and I started working for a catering company because I knew that my studies were done, or pretty much done, and I could really get a lot of hours of work in and really earn some money, save up, so I would be able to move and not have to work for a little bit while I was in this transitioning period going from Glasgow to Canada. May was an exciting month as well. Like I said, I started off working in this catering company, which was a new experience. It was nice working in a kitchen, getting new experience, as well as seeing many weddings throughout the weekends, seeing how everything operates, getting to cook the food in the kitchens, and getting a better idea of the behind the scenes process of pretty much any catering company. So that was definitely an experience that I will take with me, even though I don't plan on going back into catering ever really. At the beginning of May, I had a great trip. I visited Signy in France. It was a great trip. I really enjoyed it. We went to a few different cities. We saw a volleyball game. The weather was beautiful. Everything was just great about it. My camera cut out, stopped recording. I guess it reached the limit or something. Anyway, also at the beginning of May, I had my last exam, and this exam was particularly rough because I thought that for this specific exam we would have slightly different timings. So the way our online exams worked was that we could start at any time from a specific time, and we would have 24-hour window to do it, and we had to finish it in 3 or 4 hours depending on the exam, or some had 2 hours, just depended. And I thought this one would be from 12 p.m. to 12 p.m. the next day, or around 2 to 2 the next day. But it ended up being from 9 a.m. to 9 a.m. the next day. But on that day that I had my exam, I was actually working for the catering company, and I started my shift at 8 a.m. and finished it at midnight. So that meant I went straight home, sat down, and did my 3.5-hour exam, or 3 or 4 hour exam, just right after that. So it was a bit rough, but I ended up getting a decent mark on it, and it was all good. It just meant that the next day I was feeling a bit more tired, but I was so glad to be done. Also in May, and I believe this was May, it might have been beginning of June or end of May, I'm not sure. Me, Michelle, Blair, and Keen started going to pub quizzes on Thursday, which ended up being a weekly thing that we did. I think now Blair and Stella and Aaron go nearly weekly, but it was definitely something fun, and it was great being able to see my friends on Thursdays, because I was working 6 days a week. Normally Monday to Friday I was working my normal 8-hour shifts, and then on Saturdays I was working typically between 10 to 12 hours. It was quite a busy schedule all in all. I definitely didn't mind it, but I definitely wouldn't be able to keep it up for long, and so it was nice having that specific time on a Thursday evening where all of us would just meet up together, would be able to chat, and we wouldn't have to really struggle to schedule anything, because we all knew that that should be the time that everyone could make it. I really enjoyed those quizzes, even though we didn't win any. I think on one of the days we came second or third, but it is what it is. Then in June, okay, I will need to finish this a bit later because Keen's coming back from the hairdressers. I really should have made food by now, but I really need to finish up this food because we have our first dance lesson in 50 minutes, so wish me luck. Keen and I got back from dancing around an hour ago, or a bit more. It was quite good. It was our first lesson of 9 in this ballroom dancing that our community center has, where it's happening every Thursday. It seems fun so far, but like I said, it's only the first one. Before I realized that Keen was coming back and I had to really make dinner for us, I was talking about 2022, but here's a quick clip of how our dinner was looking, because it was actually very good. It was a tofu and veggie stir fry. I'm not 100% sure where I left off when I was talking about it earlier, but I believe I started talking about what I did in June. Near the beginning of June, I met up with some of my course mates. This was our last time having some drinks together, going to an arcade, because one of my friends was traveling to Asia. I was gonna move straight after graduation. One of our friends wasn't going to make it to graduation, so this seemed like a great opportunity for all of us just to meet up, have some drinks, and yeah, we went to like an arcade bar. It was very fun. It was a great time, and that's pretty much the last time I saw them at the beginning of June. Another big thing was I pretty much spent the month of June constantly in work, kind of like I was saying about May. So the same thing happened in June, where pretty much for the whole month I was working. But the good thing was that I was working with a really great friend, Michelle, so it was very nice being able to spend more time with her, because due to her work and the industry that she works in, it was quite difficult to arrange time to see each other before I started working there because of our different schedules. But now it made it so much easier. It was great seeing her pretty much every day. In June, also, Cian's dad came to visit us in Glasgow. We went to dinner at like a really nice restaurant, and I had a tasting menu for the first time. It was very good. It's definitely a great experience because you get these, I think in our case it was 6 or 7 courses, but you get to taste so many different things. And I feel like it's especially great for me because quite often I get bored of the food I'm eating, and I quite like diversity in the food I'm having. That was ideal. Also in June, it was Blair's birthday, so for Blair's birthday, Stella, Erin, me and Cian got all of us tickets to go trampolining. That was very fun, even though the time slot that we booked was, we thought it was an adults only because it was after dark, but it turned out that it just meant that it's a bit dark, and because we had picked one of the days that school is out for a lot of kids, it was full of kids, but regardless, it was a great time. Also at the end of June, we celebrated Michelle's birthday. I had my last day at the catering company, and we had a great night out. It was very fun. One of the most fun nights out that I've had, especially in a long time, and due to COVID, we couldn't really do that for years, but it was very fun. And then we get to July. At the beginning of July, all of my brothers and my mom came over to Glasgow for my graduation, but also for moving out. My graduation was on July 5th, and we were moving out of our place by July 10th. I think we ended up leaving on July 9th. So it was quite a quick turnaround of trying to get everything ready to leave, but also taking the time to enjoy myself and just say bye to the space that we lived in, because it was the first place that Cian and I lived in together. It was also the first place that I really felt was my space, because before, when I had lived alone or relatively alone, it was always with roommates, or in my first year I lived in dorms, in my second year I lived with a flatmate. It never felt like truly my space, but when I was living in that apartment with Cian, I felt like I could just do whatever I wanted because it was ours. On my graduation day, Cian's dad flew out to also see us in Glasgow, so it was great being with my brothers and my mom and having Cian's dad there and Cian, and it was just a great time, and all of us went to celebrate. That week was great, but also quite sad because I was saying bye to a lot of people who I know I'll see again, but not in a while, and I haven't seen them in a while. And obviously technology is great because you get to talk to people more, but obviously it doesn't replace actually hanging out with people. After we left Glasgow, that's when a lot of traveling started, or for a short amount of time. Me and my family, we went to Dublin for a few days to drop off my stuff and Cian's stuff from the apartment that we wanted to take to Canada later on. My family had never been to Ireland, so they got to do a lot of sightseeing and see different parts. And it was also great that I got to see Cian's friends, because over the years they've become my friends as well. Then after Dublin, we were flying to Manchester, and we were supposed to be there for I think only a day, and then we would fly back home to Latvia, because it was first of all cheaper to do it that way, but also we would get to see another city in the meantime. We figured that would be the best way, but then the flight got cancelled and we had to find a different flight, so we ended up staying another day in Manchester and then flying from Manchester to Amsterdam to Stockholm to Riga. So it was a long journey home, and it took us definitely way longer than it was supposed to. I think my brother's still trying to get the money back from the airline. It was just a whole mess of things, but even being in Amsterdam for a night was quite fun. Me and my brothers took, I think it's a train or the subway, in to the city centre, and we just walked around during the night. It was quite a cool experience. And then we were only in Stockholm. I feel like it might be Helsinki. It was either Stockholm or Helsinki, I think. But we were there only for a few hours, so that was the easier part of it. Then after finally getting back home, I had tickets to go to Positivus, which is a festival in Latvia. It was very fun. I got to go with Signy and Eva, and it was a great time. I'm not really a big festival person, but if I'm with friends, it's very fun. After that, in July, I just enjoyed my time, mostly staying in the countryside, but also going to Riga and seeing my friends. It was great catching up with people. In total, I spent around a month in Latvia. It was a good time to really relax after working so much, but also meet my friends, catch up with them before saying bye again initially. And also I got to see obviously my family and my grandma, so it was all in all a great time. Another thing I did near the end of July / beginning of August, and this is also where we go into what happened in August. When I was in the countryside, I also finished some of my sewing projects that I had started in Glasgow. My family had gotten me a sewing machine for my previous birthday. I do like sewing, but I'm the kind of person that always finds excuses to not do those projects, or I just think that I don't have enough time, so I end up putting aside those projects. It was great that I finally got the courage, had the time, and really did them. I finished making this jacket. I made this duvet cover that has the quilted look. Sadly, it doesn't fit on the duvet that we have now. I was making it kind of king size duvet, but I guess the measurements were either way off or it might just be a different sizing chart. I don't know. Either way, I still have it. I'll definitely use it. Sometimes we use it as almost like a cover blanket. I was just proud that I actually stuck to it and did those projects. Then also at the beginning of August, I made sure that I got all my doctor's checkups done before I would be going away for quite a while, because also when I'm here, I have emergency medical insurance, but I don't have actual medical insurance, so it's not as easy to go and just get a doctor's checkup if I need it. We celebrated my youngest brother's birthday as well, and he turned 18, which is a bit crazy because now all of us in my family we're over 18. In Latvia, that's like the legal age. It's a bit weird thinking that all of us are pretty much adults. Then August was probably one of my busiest months in the whole year, and I mean busiest in the traveling aspect of everything. Near the beginning of August, me and my mom went on a 3-day trip around Latgale, which is a province in Latvia. We went to different towns. I know all in all it was just a fun trip, and it was nice to spend time with my mom because I'm the only kid who's no longer back home. I know it was nice to do before I left. Then on my parents' wedding anniversary, which is on August 12th, we went on a boat ride. It was a very nice family event that we did. It was quite peaceful, well, for the most part. There are always conflicts, because especially when the boat's not going straight, but it is what it is. It's like any other family activity, I guess. With the boat ride, that was my second last day in Latvia. The day after, we took it quite chill. I needed to pack. I had a flight to Paris on August 14th. So in the morning I arrived in Paris. I met up with Signia there. We spent a few days in Paris just exploring the city. This was my first time there, so I got to see the Eiffel Tower and all the different touristy things that you would see. I liked Paris. Paris was a nice city, a bit on the pricier side for sure. I was surprised by the lack of greenery, but the architecture was stunning, that's for sure. Then after staying in Paris for a few days, we flew to Gran Canaria and spent an amazing 10 days there. It was a great trip, probably one of my favorite trips I've ever been on. For the first few days we went to a surfing camp. It was called a surfing camp, but realistically it's a stay in a hostel and 2 or 3 days of surfing lessons. Either way, it was great. We got to meet some really cool people, and then the rest of the stay was very relaxing. I feel like it was just all around a great trip. After this trip, I flew straight from Gran Canaria to Spain to meet up with Keen and his friends, where we spent a week at one of his friends' parents' place. And again, it was just a very relaxing trip, although when you compared the trip in Gran Canaria, that was more active. We went on walks, we went swimming, we went hiking, and the trip to Spain was more of a chill, lounge by the pool kind of trip. It was great hanging out with them, seeing them relaxing before coming to Toronto. Then after the week there, on August 31st, we flew from Spain to Dublin to see Keen's friends and family for a week, and also to pack up all of our stuff so we'd be ready for our flight. This brings us to September. On September 6th, we flew to Toronto and officially moved to Canada, at least for a year. We'll see how things go and how everything happens. So far, I have my visa for a year. We're staying here at least until the beginning of next September. During September, we didn't really do that much. We just got used to living here. We went on a lot of nature walks, and we mostly just started looking for jobs. October. In October, I went to the Latvian Centre here in Toronto to vote in our Parliament elections. To me, it wasn't such a big deal, but I know that it's important to vote. Also, October started off quite slow, but then everything almost felt like it was happening in a week or 2 weeks. And what I mean by that is, going into October, we had some job prospects, some interviews maybe here or there, but I was definitely starting to lower my expectations for my job, and it was looking a bit bleak for a while. Then Cian landed his job, he got an interview, got a job. Our recruiter reached out to me, I got an interview with them, and very soon after got a 3-week contract in one place. On the day when I started that contract, I got offered the position that I'm in now, which is a 6-month contract into a permanent position. Around the time when I was going through these interviews and Cian was just about to start working, we were also looking for our own apartment, and the application process seemed very back and forth. We weren't sure about it. We ended up finding this place. So in October, I officially got my first office job. I studied finance in university, and this was my first office job ever in my field, so it felt a bit strange because this was the first time that I had ever experienced what it was like to do the kind of work that I would potentially be doing for the rest of my life or the next maybe 40 years, depending on how I do 30 to 50. Around Halloween, we attended a charity Halloween ball, which was quite fun. November was a very fun month. It was quite exciting because on November 1st, we moved into this place, which was our new apartment. It's very exciting. It's a great place. We absolutely love it. It has everything that we need, and it was just great to finally have our own place here. I'll try to wrap up this a bit quicker because my battery's flashing red. In November, I also started my more permanent job, which I'm enjoying. There's a lot to learn, but it's very good. One of Cian's friends, Stephen, visited us in Toronto, so that was great. It was pretty much at the very beginning of November, so we hadn't properly gotten our footing here yet, but it was great to see him and hang out for a week with him. In November, I also got a new haircut. Nothing too special, but still, it was a nice experience. We also started making new friends. We went to a comedy club and met Gina. She's very nice. We've been hanging out. We've been doing new activities and, like I said, meeting people, making friends. In November, we went to our first hockey game here. It's quite exciting. It was a different experience being in the arena, all the lights, the crowd. It was great. We also started swimming in November, and we've been doing it quite consistently, 3 to 5 times a week. We also went to a sushi making class in November, gotten that as a gift for Cian's birthday. By Cian's initiative, Cian learned how to make pasta, so we've been making fresh pasta every now and then. That brings us to December. In December, I started making YouTube videos again, which is, well, I say again, before I made some back in, I want to say probably 2013 or like 2015, and they're quite bad. And I made one last year, and then last week's video, as you saw, was footage from last year, or now from 2021, and next week's video is actually also going to have some footage from 2021 because they're still great memories. I'm a bit late posting them, but they're still great. I also had my first ever office Christmas party. Very fun. I got to connect with my co-workers a bit better, which was all around great because I hadn't been in the office for that long, so it was just a nice atmosphere to chat to everyone. Also in December, like mid-December, I got COVID for a week, so that wasn't fun, and I was kind of surprised because, like I mentioned, I had COVID in March. But it is what it is. These are the kind of times we live in now. Near the end of December, we had a great first Christmas here. It was a very chill one. We were invited upstairs to celebrate with our landlords. They're a great Portuguese couple, and we celebrated with their family, like their kids and grandkids. So that was very nice of them and very welcoming. And also in December, I started doing a bit of embroidery. I'm still finishing my first little piece, but it's fun so far. Overall, picking up new hobbies and making new memories. That's about it for my 2022 wrap-up. I hope it's not an extremely long video, but it might be. It's been a great year, a lot of changes. There are times when it feels like the year's going by very slowly, and there are times when it feels like it flew past. It's just very open to new possibilities and new opportunities. A year ago, coming to Canada was just a vague hope or a wish that we might be able to do it. We hadn't even applied at this time, around this time. A lot can change in a year, but it hopefully all for the best. Even if it's not for the best, you just learn and do things better next time, if there is a next time. But anyway, now I'm just rambling. Thanks for listening to this 2022 wrap up, and here's to a great 2023. Bye.